Shyne was a Brooklyn rapper who was discovered in 1998 by DJ Clark Kent while freestyling in a barbershop. He was introduced to Sean Puffy Combs soon after and got signed on the spot. 1998 was the era of Puffy and Jlo, who were the hot couple at the time. Biggie Smalls had been murdered the previous year, and Bad Boy were working on his posthumous album, Born Again. Bad Boy had already begun building a formidable legacy, and Puffy was at the height of his success as a music mogul. Getting signed right away was pretty impressive. On top of this, Shyne was offered a huge signing bonus and perks beyond his wildest dreams. He was just a kid from Brooklyn, but was born in Belize in 1978 and moved to New York when he was 8 years old to join his mother, who had moved to the US earlier. He was instantly hooked on the hip-hop culture of the 80s and early 90s. He began developing his craft as a freestyler, freestyling and rapping to anyone who would listen, and he just happened to be in the right place at the right time while in the barbershop. Puffy was so impressed with Shyne, real name Jamal Michael Barrow, that he offered him a 5-album deal. He reportedly received 3 cars of his choice, 2 homes, and even a few $1 million just for signing. In the book, Bad Boy, The Influence of Sean Puffy Combs on the Music Industry, it explains how Puffy was blown away by Shyne's style because he sounded like the notorious B.I.G. Around this time, Jay-Z was popular, as well as other rappers with a tougher edge. Bad Boy had to compete, and their 80s sampled pop songs were no longer making the cut. Another record executive, Lance Rivera, was also interested in signing Shyne, saying, quote, "Not because he sounds like Big, but because he was dope," end quote. In fact, 10 different record companies were interested in Shyne, including Def Jam, Interscope, Tupac's former label, and Sony. Shyne hadn't even made a demo tape, nor had he performed at any shows. Yet these record companies were scrambling to get him to sign with them. He was offered 6-figure cash advances, cars, homes, and complete ownership of his masters. Even major stars like Prince didn't get that. It was reported that Puffy went up against Russell Simmons and Jimmy Levine of Interscope. Puffy supposedly offered Shyne $1 million, the use of his Manhattan townhouse, ownership of his publishing, and enough money for a home in Jersey. On top of this, he got a dark blue Range Rover. The deal was historic in the hip-hop world because it signified how far hip-hop had come since the first rap songs made the charts in the early 80s. Puffy and Bad Boy had a huge year in 1997, with Biggie's album selling astronomically after his death, and the success of the iconic song Missing You that was released in his honour. In 1998, hip-hop artists sold over 81 million albums. Shyne had a deep and husky voice. His style was cultivated by producers because they believed it was going to make him big.
A black teller when my father busted and loaded me, think he just finished sniffing the key.
But little did Shyne know, signing with Puffy would become the biggest mistake of his life. Not only did it lead to the loss of his freedom, it ended in death. Anyone who came from humble beginnings to suddenly having expensive jewellery, houses and cars offered to them, not to mention millions of dollars, would probably get a big head in the process, or at the very least, be overwhelmed and feel pressure to live up to those expectations. Shyne allegedly started to make demands. If they were going to offer him things, he may as well have had what he wanted. Plus, being offered so much before he had even had a chance to prove himself was a lot of pressure. In the end, it got to him. An insider, cited in the book, said, Shyne wanted a 600 Mercedes, but Puffy was only willing to lease a Range Rover, and they went back and forth with that process. But in the end, he settled for the 5 and reportedly requested a 6 Series emblem to be put on the car. Tragically, within a week of receiving the Mercedes, Shyne totaled it while driving home from a nightclub. He was with 2 friends and his cousin. Shyne drove off the road and crashed. One friend died, and his cousin sustained injuries that left him in a wheelchair. Shyne walked away uninjured, except for some minor scratches. The Village Voice reported that they all had been drinking. Shyne went into a depression after the accident. He was understandably distraught. He offered to pay for the victim's funeral too. But yet more tragedy was to come. On December the 28th, 1999, Sean Puffy Combs and his girlfriend at the time, Jennifer Lopez, were out celebrating Shyne's soon-to-be-released album. Shyne's highly anticipated album was finally complete and had a release date. Puffy and Jlo went to a midtown club in New York City to celebrate. Bad Boy had found another rapper who was expected to dominate the charts and be a key player in hip-hop. This was a great move for Bad Boy, who took a hit around this time because Diddy had made the mistake of focusing more on R&B than hip-hop. Bad Boy missed out on capitalising on the growth of the 90s hip-hop era. They certainly were huge in the 90s, but they weren't necessarily huge contenders in the world of Nas and Jay-Z at the time. This was an opportunity for Bad Boy to reclaim their place in hip-hop, like they did in the days of Biggie Smalls. But the evening took a turn for the worse, in the most unimaginable way. Not only was it potentially the end of Shyne's future in music, it was the beginning of the end for Jlo and Puffy's relationship. Everyone had a good time at the club, but upon leaving the nightclub, Puffy was carrying a bottle of champagne and accidentally bumped into someone. He knocked the guy's drink out of his hand. Unfortunately, the guy he bumped into was Matthew Allen, a well-known street dude called Scar. Scar shoved Puffy, and an altercation ensued. Things escalated, and one of Scar's homeboys disrespectfully threw a stack of money in Puffy's face. Then, shots were soon fired. 3 people were seriously injured. It was a miracle that no one was killed. Puffy and Jlo fled the scene. At this time, I can only imagine she was wondering how she got herself into this mess. They jumped into Diddy's Lincoln Navigator, but were soon stopped by the police, and unfortunately for them, a 9mm handgun was found in the back of the car. It was found hidden under one of the seats near Jennifer's feet. No one in the car was registered to carry a gun. Both Puffy and Jlo are from New York City, where guns are not permitted to be carried. They were arrested for illegal possession of a weapon. Jennifer was said to be visibly shaken and crying while being held in the squad room. She was said to have suffered a 14-hour ordeal, where she was handcuffed to a bench at a Manhattan precinct. She was locked alone in a cell, fingerprinted, and questioned by police. Jennifer was seen sobbing most of the time, while in jail and when she was released. She was in hysterics and feared her career was ruined because of the arrest. Many assumed she blamed Puffy for the situation, but she denied this publicly and said he supported her through the whole ordeal. The charges against Jennifer were swiftly dropped due to a lack of evidence, although some rumours say they were dropped in exchange for her testimony of what she witnessed that night. Witnesses also described Shyne firing shots into the crowd. Puffy remained locked up for a few days before being released on bail. He was officially charged with illegal possession of a firearm. Witnesses said they had seen him with the weapon. Puffy's driver also claimed that he offered him money to claim ownership of the gun. Sean Puffy Combs didn't play though. He hired OJ's and Michael Jackson's lawyer, Johnny Cochran. Cochran created enough doubt to get the jury to acquit Puffy. He told the judge, "I don't know if you know this, judge, but this person, Jennifer Lopez, is a very famous actress. To think Mr. Combs is walking around with her with a loaded gun, it's so ridiculous that it stretches the imagination." Shyne is the one who paid the ultimate price for the incident. He claimed Puffy sold him out to save himself. He maintained that Puffy snitched on him and alleged this in his music. Puff Daddy changed his name to P. Diddy in order to disassociate himself and his brand from the incident. While serving his sentence, Shyne changed his name from Jamal Michael Barrow to Moses Michael Levi after converting to Judaism. When he was released in 2009, he was deported to his native country of Belize. In 2016, Shyne appeared via satellite to perform at the Bad Boy reunion show, showing that he and Puffy had patched things up, and he wasn't bitter towards him. His album, Shyne, was released in September 2000, featuring Barrington Levy and 112 Slim. It was produced by the hitman, Bad Boy's production team. The album reached 5 on Billboard, selling almost 1 million copies. Then he was sentenced the following year, but as recently as last year, 2020. Shyne addressed the incident that occurred 23 years ago, explaining what happened. Joining Fat Joe on Instagram for his show, he shared vivid details about the evening and spoke of Diddy's involvement. Shyne admitted to using a gun to protect his friends, Diddy and Jlo, and himself. Because when the dispute between Diddy and Scar began, he was in fear for his life. He said, quote, "I was in fear for my life. Scar, who was the instigator, I know Scar from Brooklyn. Those are my guys. I didn't have a problem with him. That wasn't my beef. That was Puff's issue. They had a problem with Puff for whatever reason. Scar, Nino, and the entire Brooklyn crowd were in Club New York. I'd seen them. It was all love. But when they started arguing with Puff, I know these guys. I know what these Brooklyn guys are capable of. I know what Scar is capable of. I know what Nino is capable of. I know what happens once these arguments start. Once they start, it becomes a problem, a serious problem. Once he starts talking crazy, yeah, I became afraid for my life. Once he says it's about to happen, then it's about to happen. I'd seen somebody reach for a gun, and I reached for my weapon and I defended my friends and myself. Because once he starts firing, once whoever else pulls out a gun and starts firing, it doesn't stop there."
Once Scar starts saying, you know, I'm gonna kill you, you know, you DOA, you know, once he starts talking crazy, yeah, I became afraid for my life. I know what happens, you know, once he says, you know, it's about to happen, you know, it's about to happen. And I seen somebody reach for a gun, and I reached for my weapon, and I defended my friends and myself, because once he starts firing, once whoever else pulls out a gun starts firing, it doesn't stop there.
Shyne said Diddy got off and he ended up in jail because Diddy had top celebrity lawyers whose only concern was their client. They didn't hesitate to throw him under the bus. Shyne and Diddy were co-defendants. Shyne's lawyer argued that he acted in self-defense, but Diddy's defense team called a witness who testified that it was Shyne who fired the first shots and that Diddy had no weapon. This testimony alone was more damaging than that of the prosecution's witnesses. Puffy's witness was the final nail in the coffin for Shyne's case. If even his own co-defendant had witnesses against him, what chance did he have? It was over for him. He said he confronted Diddy about this, but all Diddy cared about was whether or not it affected him, not so much on how it affected Shyne.
If I'm telling you that she's lying, and you saying, hey, you know, well, she helping me, but I'm facing 25 years, and you looking at probation. Yeah, those are the things that, you understand, are unacceptable. You don't have to hold my hand, you don't have to do nothing, but don't try to hurt me.
Speaking of being in prison, Shyne said, "Being here is like being dead, because you've got people who ain't going home, ever. So their life is over. That's why I say, buried alive. When you got a dude who got life, he don't care. He'll rip your heart out." Shyne spent 9 years in jail, and Diddy and Jlo split 2 years after the incident. And Matthew Allen, aka Scar, was killed in a Brooklyn nightclub the following year in another shootout. Shyne's concern that evening was protecting his life and defending the life of his friends. But Diddy's concern was his brand. So he did what he had to do to protect the Bad Boy brand and, of course, avoid prison. Bad Boy dropped Shyne soon after his conviction. He did release an album while in jail after securing a deal with Def Jam worth $3 million. Shyne spent 9 years at the Clinton Correctional Facility, the same prison where Tupac was in 1994-95. Tupac also released music while in prison and became the first artist to have a #1 album while serving a prison sentence. Shyne's second album, Godfather Buried Alive, recorded prior to his imprisonment and partially over the phone, reached #1 on the Billboard R&B and hip hop charts. In 2016, Diddy's former bodyguard launched a shocking attack against the rap mogul, saying he was responsible for the murder of the notorious B.I.G. and accused him of snitching on Shyne. Eugene Deal, once head of security for Bad Boy Entertainment, claimed that Diddy was in fact the intended target. On the 9th of March 1997 in Los Angeles, when Biggie was shot 4 times and later died, he said he warned Diddy not to go to California after he received intel that something was about to go down. Even Diddy himself said that he received death threats prior to going to LA. He said Diddy insisted that he and Biggie travel in separate cars, even though they were going to the same places. That in itself is quite suspect in the eyes of many. Eugene instructed Diddy's driver to jump every red light on the trip back. But Biggie's driver stopped at a red light, and that's when he was shot. Diddy fired Eugene after discovering he was talking to the cops, who considered him to be a credible witness to the shooting. He even said that the shooter hesitated when he approached Biggie's car, probably expecting to see Puffy. Then he started shooting. As far as Eugene was concerned, that was enough evidence that Biggie was not the original target. Even more compelling, Eugene said Diddy hired people to snitch on Shyne during the 2001 trial. Shyne was convicted on 2 counts of assault and reckless endangerment, as well as gun possession. He said, quote, "Let's reminisce about how you had people on a security team find people to testify against Shyne. You're a rat," he said. Whatever you believe, Shyne's story is another in a long list of bad boy artists whose lives were ruined while being associated with the label. Shyne did turn his life around though, releasing music despite his incarceration, and now he has reinvented himself as a politician. Following in his father's footsteps, he ran for office in his native country of Belize and won, and now sits in the House of Representatives, seeking to make a difference to the lives of the people there. He maintains that he and Diddy are fine today, and that Diddy even apologised, admitting that he handled the situation badly. Do you think Diddy did Shyne wrong? Do you believe what Diddy's former bodyguard alleges? I would love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching. Share your thoughts below, like and subscribe for weekly videos, and don't forget to click the bell for more.